So we can start with today's webinar. We are also live on Facebook for the beginning of this webinar. Later on, we will continue with a more private discussion that relates to Monday's announcements of the support measures for businesses, which was a special budget related to the times of COVID and the support that businesses necessitate at the moment. I welcome you all. We have over 130 participants with us today, this morning, and it goes to show the level of interest in these schemes. I welcome also our President, Paula Bela, and the Honourable Minister, Silvio Schembr, who will both be addressing you in just a couple of seconds. We are live on Facebook, as I have already mentioned, and this is one way that you can communicate with us and keep updated with the developments and important news that are related to your business. Another way to keep updated is our WhatsApp alert system that you can register for. You just save the number 9999, which is 495199. And in that way, you will be alerted with the most important news related to businesses. Don't worry, we will not send you too much information, and we will also only limit it to the most important information that you need. And now I will be passing on the word to our President, Mr. Paula Bela, to give you an introduction, followed by the Minister's introduction. Thank you, Paul. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning to everyone. Welcome, Minister Silvio Schembr. And also, I wish to thank him for his continuous support to our chamber. And the stimulus package, as you all know, our Chamber of SMEs have acknowledged and welcomed at this difficult period. So I urge you to participate and use all these incentives the government is introducing. From my experience, I'm meeting people, business people, and there is the spirit to invest. So I acknowledge the attitude of SMEs, of the resilient, and I urge them to, this package, the government is offering to take the plunge and use it to the full to keep our investment. Being a director as well at Malta Enterprise, 2 days ago I had a board meeting, and I can tell you that investments are still coming in, applications, and we have even as well approved a substantial amount of approvals for investment for this year and next year. And this will fills everybody the courage to continue. This is something which makes us proud to be in Malta Enterprise and seeing that investments are being approved. Another note which I'd like to say as well, I'd like to Business First, which we are partners as Chamber of SMEs. They made an incredible job the last 2 months. I can give you one figure that they have responded to about 70,000 inquiries on emails, on telephones. And this, I would like to thank them from here, because Business First are doing this good job. And for this, I wish to thank them. So I'm not going to be long. I wish all the participants this webinar to use it and ask questions and queries to the Minister, Silvio Schembr. Silvio Schembr, I have a lot of praise for him. He's a young minister. So I end up this message. Let's all be positive, and I'm certain that together we will make it. To you, Minister, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Abigail, and thank you it's an honor for me to be here with you today in this webinar and have the opportunity to once again not only discuss this regeneration plan directly with the Chamber of SMEs, but even more importantly, I would say with the members, with direct members. I will not take long with my introductory message because I rather listen to the questions and answer in more details these queries. It's very heartening to listen to the comments made by yourself, Paul, and by Abigail for the fact that there is this renewed enthusiasm amongst your members, amongst investors, that there's the willingness to continue invest and do business here in Malta. I must confirm this as well, that immediately after we announced this regeneration plan, we received quite substantial amount of calls, messages, encouraging messages, telling us that this was the message that they needed. People, and not only people in terms of consumers, but also in terms of investors and business owners, wanted a message of courage, a message that the government is there to assist, come what may, and that they can rely on the assistance of the government. And I think with the massive package that we have announced, this message was delivered through, and I'm very much looking forward now to see the fruition and the results obtained after the implementation of this measure. Just one quick figure, you mentioned how Business First answered 70,000 queries. That is on one just measure, basically one main measure, that is the wage supplement. This is something that unfortunately we had no manual to follow, but we had literally to create everything from scratch in matter of hours, many of the times. So as you mentioned, we have turned the function of Business First into a basically call center based on the measures announced by Malta Enterprise. Even internally, Malta Enterprise was restructured in a way to assist and create new measures in a very short period of time. Consequently, we need to train the people to answer, hire new people in terms of third parties, in terms of giving information, implementation, getting into details, because we're speaking about millions of euros here, and we have to be responsible for each euro spent and given to other third parties. So it is no joke. But I think all in all, Malta Enterprise, its people, Business First, you as stakeholders, the business community, the general public and the government all together, I think we are doing, or we're pushing the right buttons. Finally, I would say that yesterday I also had a press conference on speaking about certain particular measures directed to predominantly SMEs. The figure is that on average, but many of the times, in fact, they will receive much more. On average, an SME can receive 18,000 in a period of 3 months. So this is no joke. It's up to you to take up these opportunities, and let's keep on working together to return to the route of economic growth. Without further ado, I would immediately turn to your members to start answering the questions.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you, Paul. The questions have already started pouring in, and now we will stop our Facebook Live so that we can concentrate on this discussion and on the questions our members are posing. But if I may skip the queue, please, I have also a question for the Minister. Minister, it is always very interesting for us to learn more about the process of what leads up to last Monday. As you know, we were in various discussions, and I also kept coming up with proposals coming from members and as a chamber. How does the process work? Maybe you can give us a bit more insight so that we understand everything that goes into an activity and an announcement like what we have seen on Monday.
Sure, Abigail, with pleasure. I mean, you know that this is not something that you wake up one day with a document and you start reading it. After each and every measure, there was a lot of work behind it, in terms of research, in terms of discussions, communication, consultations, analyzing the budget required, what effect will have in terms of economic analysis. And that's the reason why this plan was in fact praised by I can say by all major stakeholders in the country, because all of them realized that a lot of work was done behind each and every measure, and each and every measure had a targeted purpose. So if we analyze immediately when we started to close business because of the COVID situation, we started immediately working on a plan. And I still remember when we announced the first package, that was the tax deferrals, we said that the total plan, the whole plan, will be announced in stages, because each stage had a particular purpose behind it. The first and second stage had the purpose of liquidity, in order to provide liquidity for business. The third package was intended to pause, I would say, the economy and assure or take a lot of burden in terms of HR cost, of labor cost, so that business would keep as much as possible people employed in their business. And then ultimately the plan that was announced last Monday, the main targets behind this plan is to return as quickly as possible to economic growth. So as you can imagine, in a period of, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks, we had to meet multiple times on a personal level, at MCESD level. Apart from that, we have to meet to look at the financials, get into the detail, see that we can actually finance it and that it is sustainable. So we would not end up in a situation, we could have provided more, but that would have resulted that then come next October and we would turn on the business community and would tell them, look, now we have given you much more than it was sustainable, and now we have to pay back that money through the introduction of new taxes. This is something which we didn't want to go there. So what we have announced is something sustainable and something we can finance internally, even eventually through economic growth. We must remember that in 2013 we had a situation where the debt to GDP ratio was about 73%. Last year we slashed it to more near 40%. Obviously, this year we will have a deficit, which is a substantial deficit, but it's still within the remit where we can sustain it even through economic growth. That is why we are resisting, although this is a massive package of 900 million and counting, because there are at least another 250 million to cover for tourism in terms of promotion, to cover for Air Malta, to cover for other PSOs such as Gozo Channel, public transport, etc. And that is another package, separate package. But we wanted a situation where eventually this can be financed through economic growth and not through the introduction of excessive taxation.
Thank you very much for that, Minister. And we are testament that a lot of work goes into the run-up to Monday's activity. And I am also very pleased, not just myself, on behalf of the Chamber that we represent, that a number of proposals that our members have put forward have been reflected in the measures. And that is one of the main reasons why we were very positive in our reaction to the measures. But of course, the devil's in the details, and that is why we are here at the moment, so that we understand better how these measures will translate and how they will become accessible, when will they start benefiting from them, as I am seeing already a number of questions coming in, and I would appreciate people putting in questions to use the chat. if it is more of a, if it is a question that you don't want the other participants to see, above the chat, there is a blue drop-down menu, and you can choose all panelists and attendees, all panelists only. But if you are able to share this question with others so that we don't have repeated questions, please choose all panelists and attendees, and ideally do not use the Q&A chat so that we can only monitor just one source for the questions. Minister, we already mentioned the wage supplement. Now, I am also aware that as Malta Enterprise, they are awaiting from the people that have applied, from the businesses that have applied, to sometimes reply to the proposal put forward or the answer of Malta Enterprise. So a general appeal to everyone who is watching: if you have not heard from Malta Enterprise, you need to get in touch with either Malta Enterprise or with us, because there might have been some form of miscommunication, and maybe the email address you entered might have had a mistake, or else the email, which sometimes happens to us, went in the junk folder. You should have received a reply by Malta Enterprise by now, so please get in touch if you haven't. Some are asking about some clarifications, Minister, about the COVID wage supplement. To be clarified to whom the wage supplement is being extended to, and which sectors will it apply to? Will it apply to people who have returned to work on reduced hours as well? So let's divide this a bit. Let's start with the sectors first. I am aware that the tourism sectors will be supported through the full wage supplement, and I have had some questions as well from members before, saying, listen, we are 100% dependent on tourism, even businesses that operate both charters, businesses that are in the diving industry. Does this cover them as well, and how will be the tranches organized, please?
Okay, so we cannot go with the reasoning that businesses depend on tourism, because in any way, all business in Malta in somehow or another form depends on tourism. There are certain sectors that operate in the tourism industry, such as hotels, language schools, I mentioned more a few, tour guides, tour guides. So those are the operators of the industry. They will still receive the 800 supplement. Now, then there are other businesses that depend heavily on tourism, such as restaurants and other areas, that supplement was reduced from 800 to 600. Having said that, that is just a message that we want to depart from the economic model of having to receive 800 euro and staying at home. It is not something that, as a government, we're doing to reduce cost, because the difference is just 200 euro, and what we're giving back is 20 times as much than the 200 euro. So these operators we're assisting in terms of rents cost, in terms of electricity bills. We have introduced the voucher system, that is, we are injecting 37 million to be spent and used in a period of 2.5 months, which is no joke. 37 million if people do not spend an extra cent over and above what we're giving. And we know that Maltese people like to spend, like to celebrate, to have fun, entertain themselves. And I'm sure that when they go with a 20 euro voucher, they would definitely top up more with their consumption. So I'm sure that the 37 million will have a much bigger effect in terms of domestic demand. So there's a lot of assistance there. But we have to depart from the mentality that people can receive 800 and stay at home. if we keep the wage supplement as it is without giving that signal, we risk a situation where people would not want to go to work. And this is something that we are already feeling it. Last, I think, month or 3 weeks ago, I visited a particular factory that they were expanding their operations. During the crisis, they were requesting 100 new employees. They were finding it difficult to find employees because the wages at the factory, I don't know, they are about 1,200, 1,500. And the reason was, look, I will receive 800, stay at home, and it's fine for me without doing nothing. For 1,200, I would not go to work, I would just stay at home. So, I mean, the 800 wage supplement served its purpose 1 month ago. Now it will have counter effects if we do not depart from that mentality. And there again, this is not a question of money. What we are reducing in the wage supplement, we are increasing it tenfold to give it back. But I think all of us understand this, that we have to depart from that mentality. Now, then there are other sectors who depend from domestic demand. And here I'm referring to those who offer personal services, such as beauticians, nail technicians, hairdressers, etc. These, although they have opened their business and demand is there, because obviously we talk to these people as well. To be honest, they have not asked for the wage supplement. So the fact that we have opened, that we are assisting them with the rent, with the electricity, with the voucher system, with the micro-invest guarantee, with the micro-invest cash grant and many other schemes, they were happy even to relinquish the wage supplement. We have done a step further than that. And we said, although you are open for business and operating nearly to a normal circumstance, instead of cutting off the wage supplement, we are shifting from Annex A to Annex B, all these personal services. Any company or person who was on Annex B will remain on Annex B.
You mentioned these annexes, Minister, and these were a reference point during the last weeks. And will there be an update of these annexes, and how will they be, the new NACE codes, which ones will fall under the new Annex A, so to say, and which will fall under the new Annex B?
Sure, definitely. First of all, let's keep in mind that up until the end of June, nothing will change, okay? Following that, Malt Enterprise will once again adopt the method that they have adopted for the May and June extension of the wage supplement. So basically they would send an email to the applicant asking them if something changed, and if nothing has changed, that will continue to move smoothly. If something changed, they will update that particular application. In terms of the update, obviously, yes, there will be the update hopefully soon to be published also on the Malt Enterprise website.
Very good. And you also mentioned the adjustment in the workforce on a national level. So yes, we might be seeing a bit of adjustments. And in fact, someone has posted, if we have new recruits, if we have recruited some people, will these also fall under, and they have obviously benefited from the wage supplement, can they add them to the benefit even though they are new recruits?
Okay, so we have to analyze the situations. So if we have a particular company that was hit by a particular decision, but now the hit is over and sales have increased and they are sustaining themselves without the need of a wage supplement, because the wage supplement is not an entitlement, it is subject to a particular situation. So if that situation has changed and it is no more, obviously they are not entitled to the wage supplement. But if they are starting to increase activity, but still, so let me take another example. They were in a situation that they have had to end 10 people to work with them. And now business activity is starting to gear up, and they are recruiting another 2 people. Because they're recruiting these 2 people, we will not punish them for that. So if the situation still, although it is improving, and we want situations to improve, but it's still not near what was before, obviously those companies will not be punished. But if a company has returned to the 90% sales, we have to understand that at that point in time, they do not need the wage supplement anymore.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Minister. So let's go into, and yes, what I wanted to follow up on this is that originally, as we said, Annex A and Annex B were a reference sort of list, but Malta Enterprise was actually very flexible in also listening to certain businesses that at face value might not appear to fall under Annex A and Annex B, and then once they listened to them, they gave them a more favorable, even though it might not have been Annex A, it was Annex B. Malta Enterprise still saw that help was needed there. So we also welcome that Malta Enterprise will ask for an update and give these businesses an opportunity to still discuss the matter with Malta Enterprise, because obviously when you issue a policy, it will hit some people in some way and others in another way, and that is a flexibility. That kind of flexibility is very necessary. I'm going to move, Minister, to a very interesting development, in my opinion, the micro-invest.
Mm-hmm.
The micro-invest, part of which was accepted to be turned into a grant, which the government said, we understand that in the current situation, profits and therefore tax due on profits will be lower, and the government has accepted the part conversion into a grant. Can you elaborate please on this, when it will be available, covering which periods of time?
Yes, of course. The grant will be available very soon. We just need to publish one small legal notice, because the law as it is today does not permit us to give grant, but tax credit. But that's something technical. The legal notice is, as far as I'm concerned, it's ready. It just needs to be signed. So the grants will be available very soon. The way that will work is that those who invested and last year were benefiting from the X amount of tax credit, and they would have used that tax credit this year. Obviously, we know that this year, basically, profits will be shrinked a lot. So the tax credit would not make much sense. Instead of using that amount as tax credit against profits of this year, 30% of that tax credit would be given as direct cash grant, as a check. And that would have a cap of €2,000 for businesses in Malta. And for those businesses who are led by a female entrepreneur or operate from Gozo, there are 471 of them, and they would benefit from a maximum of €2,500 instead of 2,000.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up question on this regarding microinvest: businesses who up to basis year 2019 exhausted the capping limit allowed cannot apply again during 2020. There are businesses who wish to invest in additional equipment, etc. Would the Honourable Minister kindly consider either extending the limit that one can apply for, or introduce an additional amount just for basis year 2020?
Yeah, this is something that, in fact, I discussed even with Paul yesterday. Well, this is something that we can consider. It is not something that has to do with this plan, because this plan has got different objectives, but nothing stops us to consider it maybe for the budget in October or further on.
It is good, I think, to point out at this stage is that the Commission is giving increased flexibility to the member states to be able to help businesses in these exceptional circumstances. Certain EU rules were very, very rigid before COVID, but now there is a bit more flexibility, and that is why the government is able to consider these requests being put forward. I have a question. Is the fund of euro 10,000 for overseas exhibitors available to DMCs?
Pardon, come again? Which fund?
Is the fund of 10,000 euros for overseas exhibitions available to DMCs?
It's not, no, the 10,000 fund is for digital marketing abroad. It's not for exhibitions. For exhibitions, there is already a scheme with Trade Malta that is obviously available to all, that they can participate. So there we have launched two particular schemes. The exhibition scheme to participate in international exhibitions is still available. That has not changed. Then we have announced two different items rather than schemes. One of them is to assist those businesses who would like to market their product for export in terms of digital marketing. Excuse me. And that we have a 10,000 maximum cap. And then what we're doing again is refund 80% of all the costs involved that they have incurred, these companies that were going to participate in trade fairs abroad and to have registered with Trade Malta, and obviously because of COVID situation, these trade fairs were cancelled. And we are going to refund 80% of that cost. This in order for them to encourage them so that they can participate again next year without them needing to pay, obviously, and incur extra necessary charges.
We also have a question coming from a different sector. I think it's very interesting. I operate a clothing/retail business. I set up at events, markets, etc. That's where I generate my sales from. With COVID, all events were cancelled, so I could not sell in the same way anymore, but sell online. However, it is not the same as target audience mostly is tourists. My question is, am I also entitled to have clients use the retail €20 voucher from my online website, as I don't have a physical outlet, but as such, all events have been cancelled as he already specified. So this is a business that usually sets up at different locations, but for the time being, they have gone online with their retail shop.
But they are licensed, they have a particular license to operate a particular activity, what?
I would imagine that they should have a license. The impression that I am getting from this question is that it's not a one-time thing. So the permit that would come out of the local council, it's like a hawker license probably.
I think in that case, because it seems to be a very particular case, ideally they send us the details so that we can look whether this is a licensed activity or just a sporadic activity. In that sense, we have to understand that we cannot extend certain measures to sporadic activities. These are intended to those SMEs who have invested, who have got their particular assets, they have risked their money, and we have to assist those SMEs who employ people, etc. We cannot sustain an activity that has just been born today because of the situation to take benefit from these particular schemes. Otherwise, we would defeat the scope.
Okay, so Mr. Muscat, we will be passing on this question and probably asking you for further details in order to be able to answer your question. Someone else asked, with respect to the reduction in stamp duty from 5% to 1.5%, will this also be applicable to those available of the first-time buyer scheme? In addition, any idea when the legal notice for this will be issued, given that there are a number of people that have contracts this and next week and would like to apply the rate soonest? Thank you.
Yes, obviously, when we announce something that has to do with a fiscal measure, that comes into place immediately once it is announced. So those rates were started to be in effect as from last Monday. The legal notice, as far as I'm concerned, because it is something that falls under the Ministry of Finance, if it is not published, it should be published soon. But yes, it's applicable to all activity. There were queries before whether this is going to be open for a business activity or just for residential activity. And this was clarified that it is open to all activity, whether it is personal, business, any activity in terms of when it comes to buy land, and it is available up until March of next year. So the contract has to be signed from last Monday till the end of March of next year, and all activity qualifies, being first time, second time, third, business activity, commercial, non-commercial, all of them.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I am going to turn to another sector, something that we have spoken about during the last weeks, the entertainment and event sector. Entertainers and businesses supplying equipment for parties and events have been very hard hit, both with parties, weddings, festas, and several other events not being able to be held. Would the Minister consider a cash grant to help people/organizations who will engage entertainers so as to stimulate the recovery in this sector? And apart from that, I'm going to include a little bit my comment. This is a sector, obviously, that have still a bit of unknown in front of them of when they will start to operate. So once again, we appeal to you as Minister and the government to be able to help us plan out the recovery of this sector as well.
Yes, unfortunately, on the last part, we are still also waiting answers. So in terms of planning, when we would be able to fully operate and open, it very much depends on other factors. I fully understand that situation, and if I were to identify one particular sector which there is still uncertainty of when they would operate, I think I would identify that sector, because even tourism, at least we have some form of direction. In terms of the mass events activities, yes, you are totally right. Hopefully in the coming days we would have a much clearer picture about that. We are recognizing that fact. In fact, even when it comes to the wage supplement, we have kept them at the €800 per month mark. As far as I'm concerned, even in terms of the Ministry of Tourism, there is going to announce some schemes or initiatives to help as much as possible activities going on in Malta. I do not have the details, so the Ministry of Tourism will announce, as far as I'm concerned. Today they have a press conference, which obviously they will give much more detail on that. If not, obviously details will be given at a later stage. But yes, I fully concur with you. That is, I would say, the only department that I can imagine right now that we are still uncertain of when we can say, look, this is the start date. Hopefully, I would say, hopefully by next week, we would have a much more clearer picture of when we can go on that date.
And I understand that being very dependent on health results and certain unknowns, these are not easy decisions to make. It will help, but if we get a bit together and try to understand the sector, I know you understand the sector already, but giving them an open channel of communication would help them coming to terms with the current situation. And we have a number of sectors that are falling a bit, I would say, gray areas that are very tourism dependent, and they have asked us even event dependent, I would say. And they are asking again whether they will have special support, and these relate, for instance, to the car rental sector, which obviously had a boom because of tourism mainly, and now have suffered losses that are over 95% in terms of turnover, and also the wedding sector, which we take them as part of the event sector. But I am not sure, maybe you can confirm this from your end as well.
In terms of the wedding sector, we have announced a measure to assist people who have postponed their wedding. This will work twofold, because we know that there are wedding organizers that they are charging an extra fee for the postponement of weddings. There are people who came to an agreement, and we are trying to at least try to assist in that case. And in fact, we are assisting with a cap of €2,000 for those people who are postponing their weddings. Up until now, as far as I'm concerned, there are about 200 or 300 that they have postponed their weddings. But I do not have the final figure. This was, I think, about 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, that figure. Most probably that would increase by a little bit more. And we are trying to assist as much as possible in that case. Having said that, when it comes to the events organization, as I said before, we still have to first know when that would be possible to start. I don't think it would be wise to devise a measure now or a scheme now when we do not even know the starting date, because I don't think we would obtain the desired result if we at least do not know when we are going to start or not. As I said, hopefully next week we should have a much clearer picture, but it could not be next week. Hopefully it is next week.
Very good. Thank you, Minister. And I appeal to those sectors that are still not certain where they would fall, and they believe that they should fall under a specific annex or another, to speak to us, and we will pass on the message to the government and help you in making your case, and the government will see it on a case-by-case basis. Some sectors which would apparently have remained untouched in COVID are also speaking to us, saying that our electricity costs have soared. So even though business was sort of as usual, they have also suffered some increases in terms of prices and in terms of costs in general. They say we didn't close and couldn't close. Malta Enterprise has ruled us out of any measures, even though we are listed on Annex B. We need to have our ACs on all the time. As a pharmacy, temperature cannot exceed 24 degrees Celsius. And obviously, pharmacies were working a lot during these times, and they are seeing certain costs increase for them. Obviously, this is not a sector that we are focusing on in that manner. I don't know if you have anything to add, Minister.
Well, let's put everything into perspective, because if we were to say yes to everything, obviously everyone would come and ask for assistance. I would say that if more hours were required to operate, I think that was followed because there was an increase in demand too. I don't think, or at least I still have to be convinced, that pharmacies had a reduction in their sales.
Yes.
I have not received requests in that sense, but we have to put everything into perspective. We need to assist those who really need. We cannot go to assist, for example, supermarkets. First of all, they have not asked for assistance, okay, to start from that. And I'm bringing the example of supermarkets because they have not requested any form of assistance. But if we know that the demand for the products have increased, how can we dedicate public money, public fund, to assist someone who doesn't need assistance? So, come on, we have to put everything into perspective and realize that here there are a lot of businesses that are in dire situations and need a lot of help. And these are the businesses that we need to assist.
Obviously, everyone would be seeing things from their own angle, and I do not rule out that certain costs might have gone up and certain difficulties might have been faced by these sectors. But obviously, when having a broader view of the other sectors, you understand how many other businesses have been on their knees for the last months. And obviously, certain sectors must take priority in the current situation. And we have a question regarding...
Abigail, just one comment, because I'm not sure if I have understood you correctly. Those who are in Annex B qualify for all the measures that are on Annex A. So there's no difference between Annex A and Annex B. All the measures apply exactly the same to both those who are on Annex A and Annex B. Okay?
Yes. So yes, that's important to clarify. If the NACE code is on Annex A or Annex B, they get access to all the schemes. And now moving to the question on rent, while the amount of €2,500 for July, August and September is a very good incentive for outlets rented at low rents, this is extremely low for others who have quite a higher rent. Now, did this €2,500 come up since rents signed during the last 10 years are very much higher on a monthly basis than the 2,500 being given for a period of 3 months? So they are basically asking, this is something that we had a bit of a question mark ourselves. I think the message also reached you as well, whether it is the 2,500 is calculated on a contract basis or by business. Because if it is one business having one outlet, 2,500 might be quite a good level of sustainment, covering 50% or a bit more or a bit less of their costs. But we have many cases where businesses have an outlet in Sliema and another one in Valletta, another one in Paola and Mosta. They would have 4 or 5 outlets. Is this 2,500 per business or per contract?
No, that is per business. The rent covers each business, each contract rent per particular. If you have 2 shops, obviously you have two rents, and that would cover the 2,500 would apply for each shop. We have to understand that we have dedicated 50 million for this measure, which is no joke. Obviously, people or businesses who have higher rents would ask for more. But we have a limit, or the government has got a limit as well, as far as the government can go. I had also this discussion with Paul yesterday. It is like, let us take another example from the other side. It is like you have an employee who come and ask you for an increase in wage. The more you increase, the happier he is. But there's a limit where an employer can accept as a wage increase. So that wage must be a balance between having a fair compensation to the employee, but not putting in jeopardy the business. We have to put everything into a balance. And that is what the government is doing. We have X amount of budget that we can dedicate. Once again, I said it's 50 million. It's no joke. To put this into perspective, when in 2014 we have reduced the electricity and water bills to everyone, it costed the country 80 million per year. And all of us is testament to the benefit that it made the country, for the business in general, with 80 million. Imagine now we're giving 100 million into the economy. 50 million alone on rents. Electricity, we gave 80 million in 1 year. We're giving 50 million in 3 months on rents. So those are the numbers.
The details of the scheme have not yet come out, but something that was already mentioned is that the rental scheme will be accessible upon presentation of the contract.
Yes.
So I hope that where the government sees that there is a contract that should be helped, given the current circumstances, the aid of the rent scheme would also be made available. And someone is asking whether this covers lease agreements from the Lands Authority. So now we are not talking about private agreements, we're talking about Lands Authority.
No, this doesn't cover. We have to understand that if you have a lease agreement from the Lands Authority, that particular tenant has already been enjoying very subsidized rates throughout all the years. And then we have a situation where other companies or businesses who wanted to benefit also from a Lands Authority contract, which we all know they come at a very cheap rates, and the Lands Authority had no premises to provide. Obviously here it's now the time to assist that particular business who had to pay a private rent to perform his activity. So no, this entitlement is only directed to private contracts.
What I can say about this is that we had this question previously, and we directed tenants to the Lands Authority to see whether they can give them a bit of a breather during this current time, and many times they were understanding. So yes. I would suggest doing the same thing, and if you need us to put you through to the Lands Authority, we will help as well.
Postponement is something that most probably they would consider in certain circumstances, but as I said, we all understand and I think agree with this particular reasoning.
Okay, just 1 second. They are asking about the electricity scheme, sort of. Which are those companies that are going to qualify for the electricity scheme?
And those those 20,000 or more who have applied for the wage supplement, being NXA or NXB. Okay,
so if they were given the wage supplement, they will be automatically eligible for the electricity scheme. Something not related, maybe education sector, what measures are being taken to return the visa processing of incoming students to normal as soon as possible?
I wouldn't know that answer. I think if you send us the email, we could direct it to the respective minister.
Okay. Can you please describe and explain qualifying activities for the 5K grant for businesses re-engineering and the process for claiming this?
Yes, more detailed guidelines will be issued soon. Basically, the general understanding is that following the situation, there were certain businesses that needed to change their way of doing things. Maybe to introduce more technology in their activity, to go more digital, to be more efficient, reduce cost, and change their particular operations. Many of the times, people who operate in particular type of business, especially the most traditional type of business, are very good in offering the service, but maybe they lack the managerial skills to operate or manage the administration of that business. So through the scheme, we are incentivizing them and assisting with a particular substantial amount of grants that they can hire a professional service to provide them with a report on how can they perform a SWOT analysis basically and turn threats into opportunities by re-engineering their business.
Okay, that is a very interesting and important scheme, because many businesses are thinking of what they can do next, and unfortunately certain markets are not viable in the very imminent future. I'm going to move to the Commissioner for Revenue. Up to a couple of weeks ago, the Commissioner for Revenue stated that all taxes need to be settled by 31st October 2020. Through the latest measures communicated, it seems that this was now changed and all taxes need to be settled by March 2021, so further on, except for FSS and Social Security deductions from employees' wages and salaries, which need to be settled in time by July 2020. Can you confirm this, please? And this condition applies also to employers' share of Social Security contributions, so that there is an extension from the October 2020 originally communicated to the March 2021 by when they need to settle the tax dues.
I don't think I'm agreeing with the dates.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, but this is something that it's better to confirm directly with the Ministry of Finance. But as far as I'm concerned, what was postponed in terms of taxes up until June, they have to be paid in a 1-year period. So from July 2020 to June 2021, not 2020, okay? So what was postponed in the past 4 months or so will be spread in the next year, for the next year. Going forward from the 1st of July onwards, given that now shops has been opened, that activity has been opened, they have to pay now what is due for the employee. That is the national contribution and income tax. The remaining taxes, when it comes to VAT or business activity related taxes, that is still being postponed, as far as I'm concerned, up until 30th of September.
Thank you for that. And something that maybe would be also worth clarifying is that originally, this is something that was mentioned on Monday by the Prime Minister, originally students and pensioners were ineligible. Can you explain the period where this eligibility now will cover? Will it cover starting from March or else a more recent date?
No, it will start from 1st July. With the new rates, that is with the 600 for full-timers and 375 for part-timers. I think in many of the cases, these are part-timers.
Okay, thank you. And with regards to the wage supplement, someone is asking, how would it apply to part-timers apart from full-timers? Because we know that it's 800, 600, and then it continues going down. Is
375.
375 as well. Okay, very good, thank you. I am going through the whole list of questions, which is very, very long. We don't have all the time in the world, but I'm trying to put everything in. A question regarding the reduced bank interest rates. Does this also include interest rates on overdraft facilities or only interest rates on loan facilities? I think this relates to the Malta Development Bank scheme and whether there is help regarding overdraft facilities.
I'm not sure if I have understood the question.
From the webinars we had with the Malta Development Bank, in fact, it was clarified that the subsidy being given by the government for the guarantee scheme relates specifically to the guarantee scheme and not to any overdrafts or other current loans that the business might have.
No, for the current loans, no. And the guarantee and the subsidy of the interest are directed for the new loan applications that they need to cover, I would say, qualify it as a working capital in order to cover labor costs, stock, etc. But it is something related to the COVID period. It will not cover a new investment or past loans.
And something that I have seen through the chat in many instances is they are asking for an extension of the deadline of microinvest for late submissions. So this is something that maybe we can put forward formally to see whether there can be. As far as I know, there are 4 or more deadlines, and there is also one for late submissions, but we will look into it, and if need be, we will put forward a request in that sense. The decrease in tax due on property buyers from 5% to 1.5%, will it affect first-time buyers only? I think we already No, it will not affect first-time buyers only. The first 175,000 will carry a nil charge, and the remaining 225K, in case of a specific, will carry a 1.5% charge for first-time buyers of properties. So it extends.
First-time buyers, we have enlarged it a little bit. So those who benefit from the first-time buyer scheme, so before last Monday, there was a situation where if you had a percentage share of a property or a garage or something small, which is not residential but considered as property, you would not be able to qualify under the first-time buyer scheme. Monday, we have announced that if you are a first-time buyer and you are going to buy a residential property, even if you have a percentage share or a garage or something else, you would qualify under the first-time buyer scheme. If you are going to buy any other property and you're not a first-time buyer, as I explained before, you qualify under the other scheme.
Before, Minister, you mentioned about digital marketing. Is this just for products? Is this for products or services too?
What do you mean? Digital market for export, you mean? Yeah, if they are going to provide an export service or product, they would qualify.
Okay.
But it's for export. I mean, it is not something that, how do I say, it does not apply for a lawyer who wants to market the service of a lawyer abroad. It's not that scope.
Maybe they would want to move or extend their offices abroad, sort of. In that case, it is more of an export like that. Someone is asking, are there funds to assist companies to access psychological support for their employees to help them deal with the increases in stresses of the situation? I know that something was announced in relation to training.
This is more related to skills development. In terms of assistance in that regard, as far as I'm concerned, the Ministry for the Family has already announced something. They have extended the service. They have also announced a 24/7 helpline, if I'm not mistaken. It is not something under my remit, but what I'm saying is what I have followed from the news. I think the best is to contact directly the Ministry for the Family, but I'm sure that there is already a service in that sense.
And I also think that any investment that is done in the business and to help employees will indirectly also be covered under microinvest as an investment that the business will be doing. As maybe we can go just a little bit into the re-engineering. We will take the last question, and then any other questions that have remained unanswered, please filter them into us as well, because we had many double questions, so to say. So multiple people were asking about the same things, and if they have remained unanswered, please let us know, and we will get the answer for you through various sources. What is the expectation related to the re-engineering of the business model? What do you understand, Minister, by re-engineering of the business model?
In terms of re-engineering, is that if you had a business that the old way of doing things is not compatible with the new normality, or that you are finding it difficult to continue with the same activity you had before, most probably you need to re-engineer, that is to reinvent of how you can still provide the service or product in a different manner. Now, there are a lot of tools that you can use, especially digital tools, which unfortunately many businesses in Malta are still not benefiting from them or are not using them. Now is the time to try and have someone, a professional person, firm, or activity to assist you in doing so. This assistance costs money, and as a government, we're telling you, in order to assist you to go into that direction and future-proof your activity, we are covering the cost of that study for you to implement. In a nutshell, that is it. As a general note, Abigail, because you said this is the last question, all the schemes and information, as far as I'm concerned, are already uploaded on the Malta Enterprise website. Then more details in terms of application, etc., will be announced in the coming days when each activity will be launched. But our intention is to launch them as soon as possible. A lot of work has already been done on the majority of the applications, so it will not take very long until we announce the application process.
Thank you very much for your time, Minister. Maybe it would be a good idea that we work a bit together to see if we can make a set of frequently asked questions so that until the full details are available, because it appears that many have similar questions and they might be addressed in this way. And obviously everyone is very eager to learn the full details given also the pressures that they have, and I'm sure you understand this. Thank you, Minister, for your time, and thank you for making yourself available, and we look forward to continue discussions in this matter. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Same here. Thank you.
Thank you all of you who have attended for this meeting. Obviously the Minister, the questions were multiple, and the Minister had so much time that it could be devoted, but I assure you that, as we have always done, and obviously we are in a very similar situation to where we were when other measure schemes were announced, and we had little information as soon as they were announced, but then we filled in the gaps. We went to the authorities to give us more information, and we relayed this to you. We will do exactly this. So any information that you will have, we will compile a frequently asked questions with the help of Malta Enterprise, and any questions that have remained unanswered, please, you have our contact, send them to us. And I am going to give you once again our number, which is, I'm going to write it down here on the chat so that you can register for the, which is this one. I'm not very good with numbers and I still cannot remember it. There it is. This is the number that you can subscribe to the WhatsApp alert system that will tell you that something important is lying in your mailbox. And once again, I reiterate, because we had a meeting just before this one, there are many weight supplement replies that Malta Enterprise has sent, and they did not receive an acknowledgement or a disagreement from the side of the businesses. And in some cases, we realized that they were going in the junk mail. The junk mail automatically, after a week or so, it clears out. The message becomes expired, so to say, and it is automatically cleared out from the junk mail, so you will not even find it. So please check your junk mails as well on a weekly basis, and if you have any replies that are still being awaited from your end, from Malta Enterprise, do let us know, and we will make sure that the message goes across. But from what I am understanding, Malta Enterprise and Business First are contacting each and every person, each and every business that has not replied to the information already sent by Malta Enterprise. So, thank you very much. Please send us any questions that have remained unanswered, and obviously we will continue with our lobbying efforts to make sure that these schemes that were announced are as accessible as possible. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good rest of the day.